So you grew up in the US your whole life.
Exactly.
When did you come to Japan for the first time?
I've been coming back to Japan like pretty much every year when I was little.
With your parents, right? Yeah.
Just to go to my grandparents' house and stuff. And then I came to Japan in middle school. And I experienced Japanese school education for the first time in my life.
How was that going from
Hell.
American school? Hell? Wait, why?
It was complete hell for me because even though I can speak regular sort of everyday Japanese, I couldn't read or write up to par.
Am I allowed to ask this? But why were you going to school in Japan? Like, what was there a reason why?
That's the music thing.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to become a musician in Japan, so I came to Japan to do music, and I still had to go to school, so I went to school, but I went to regular school, which was a huge mistake, and I didn't go to international school or that kind of thing. So
how was that? Why was it a mistake? I'm curious.
It's just that I couldn't keep up with any of the education, and I was a complete loner. So I didn't have any friends.
I was going to ask, is it hard to make friends when you're like a transfer student?
I think it's impossible to make friends.
This is such a lie. Anime would have you believe that the transfer student is
like everyone wants to know the transfer student. Why would you lie to me, Anime?
Because like there's that one scene where it's like a transfer student from overseas who's like, oh, they can speak English, and then during the break they're fucking all over that transfer student, right? Like, did that happen to you at all?
Big surprise here, and I'm gonna give you a huge sort of reality check. But as an anime singer, anime is not exactly real.
No.
I respect your opinion. I do.
But I'm gonna live in my anime reality.
I will choose to.
No, I hate to break it to you guys, but no.
You mean you didn't sit in like the far corner of the classroom next to the window?
I was, actually, since I came to Japan and then I started the school at a very weird time in the sort of year.
Right.
So I was like in the corner, and so I couldn't make friends, and I couldn't keep up with the studies, and everything, like the culture was completely
right. Yeah, it's quite different from America.
Yeah,
I guess for you as well, it's like doubly a pressure, right? Because you're full Japanese.
Everyone expects me to be Japanese,
right?
Like, if I looked sort of American, probably people would be like, Nihongo daijoubu desu ka? But no, people would be like completely normal. They expect me to understand completely everything. So that was huge sort of stress for me mentally.
How good was your Japanese when you moved here?
I could speak it, but reading and writing was completely.
So Japanese is technically your second language.
Yes, it's technically my second language, and I didn't actually officially study Japanese in America.
Right.
Okay.
And so you were in Japanese school until high school then?
No, just for less than 2 years, I think.
Because you were like, thank God.
No, and then I just gave up, and then I went back to the States, and then I finished school there. And then after I finished school, I came to Japan and started my career. So
okay, what is the Japanese education system like compared to the US? Because I've thought about because I was also I was raised in the UK. That was where my education system is. I can't imagine having an education in Asia because that the culture of the Asian education system just seems like a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
and that's something that I'm not a fan of at all.
I think in Japan, I've only been as a student for less than 2 years. I can't say I know everything, but at the same time, I think they're very studying based. Like everything is about studying, and it's very difficult to be a loner in school in Japan. Like you have to have your sort of niche, and you have to have your place, and you have to have friends in order to really feel like.
So who are like the cool kids in Japanese schools? Who are like the popular kids? Because when I was growing up, it would be like the people who are good at sports or like the jocks and stuff like that. Who are like what makes you popular in Japanese schools? I've always wondered about.
I think it is different in Japan. Like it doesn't necessarily mean like you have to be like the most fashionable or anything, but in Japan it's more if you're outgoing and you're also smart.
Right.
Smart educationally.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing anime got right.
Yeah. I noticed there's a big difference because when I was growing up in the UK, if you did well in tests, that's like a black mark. You're like, whoa, you studied for an exam? Look at this fucking nerd.
Whereas in Japan, it's like, whoa, you studied? Oh my god, you're awesome.
So I think, that kind of thing is different.
Yeah.
Like if you're an all-rounder, if you're good at a lot of different things, then you're pretty much,
The image of perfection.
Yeah,
Basically.
the
You're just
image
good at
of-
You're just good at everything.
Japan loves perfection.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think they sort of exert perfection in the anime as well. Like the animes, they sort of depict perfection in animation. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but did you ever have like any negative experiences like bullying because you are like foreign or?
There wasn't exactly like direct bullying, but people didn't know how to interact with me because it was an international school and they weren't exposed to foreign people. They at the time though, now of course there are a lot of foreigners in Japan, but at the time there were like if there was a foreigner walking around in Shibuya, people would be like,
Yeah. I mean, it's still like that in some cases,
they
right?
didn't have an immune system for like English and foreigners, and so just the fact that I came from the U.S. and that I was an outsider, people were like, "Oh, I don't know how to interact with them." Do they know the same language? They didn't really know how to interact with me. So even though I was really outgoing and I'm a people lover.
Yeah.
No one really wanted to, sort of interact with me like directly.
Yeah.
They were very shy.
Yeah.
Japan is very shy. So that was one of the biggest stresses.
Yeah,
for
I
me.
definitely noticed that, especially recently, I feel, even just like looking like, going out into the town and stuff like that, you do see like, because like when we were in school, like I never went to a Japanese school either because I just didn't really want to. I heard terrible things about it. But back then it was like, if you look any different at all, because it's such a collectivist society, you're just not gonna fit in. Like no matter how hard you try. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna bother with that shit. But like nowadays, like the other day I saw like a bunch of high school girls in uniform. And among like the 3 or 4 Japanese girls, there was like one girl who was just like clearly like African American, like black.
Yeah.
So it's like full on. And they were like just hanging out with her like it was nothing. In my head, I was just like, hell yeah. Finally, like kids
Exactly.
actually like are starting to understand it in Japan. I'm like, you guys took your fucking time.
Yeah.
So if I came to Japan now as a
Yeah.
teenager and went to school, I'd probably have a very
Much
different,
better time. Yeah.
experience.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Yeah.
No, because I feel like it's extra pressure as well because I kind of relate to that where like I feel like if you were like American or something or something that your blood isn't from Japan, it would be a lot more exotic. But because you're 100% Japanese, coming back to Japan, you feel like a foreigner in your own home sometimes. Because I felt like that when I went back to Thailand, right? Because people like foreigners in Thailand, but for me, I feel like I'm a foreigner in Thailand, but it's kind of like a disappointment because I'm 100% Thai, but so they expect me to be fully Thai and fully fluent and fully understanding of the culture and everything. And when they see that I'm not, they're just like, okay, so you're not one of us, but you're also not cool for being a foreigner either.
It's like double disappointment.
Yeah, I don't get the advantage of being either thing.
Yeah.
Thai man would never wear a turtleneck. What is this?
But I can completely relate because I grew up in America, but I lived on the West Coast
Right.
for most of my life. And so there were very few Asian people. And at the time, though, the Japanese boom wasn't existent yet.
Yeah.
So no one really liked Japan yet. Everyone was like, the Asian people were all one category. It was like, you're Chinese, you're Japanese, you're the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I felt very like sort of, left out in the community. I didn't know my identity there. And so then I came to Japan and then I experienced the same thing where I didn't have an identity. I wasn't completely Japanese. I wasn't completely American. And people were still not used to having, foreign people in Japan yet. And so my timing is just completely off my entire life.